Aslan Adnan, M.A., presents Isis Unveiled, a master key to the mysteries of ancient and modern science and theology. A detailed synopsis and critical review published in 1877, Isis Unveiled, a master key to the mysteries of ancient and modern science and theology, was Helena Petrovna Blavatsky's first major work and remains one of the most influential books in the history of Western esotericism. Spanning 2 substantial volumes and exceeding 1,200 pages in most editions, it laid the intellectual foundations for the Theosophical movement, which Blavatsky had co-founded only 2 years earlier in New York. At the time of its publication, Europe and North America were experiencing profound intellectual upheaval. Charles Darwin's theory of evolution had challenged traditional religious beliefs, while rapid scientific advances were encouraging an increasingly materialistic view of the universe. At the same time, spiritualism, the belief that the living could communicate with the dead through mediums, had become enormously popular. Blavatsky entered this debate with an audacious claim: both modern science and organized religion possessed only fragments of the truth. The complete picture, she argued, had survived only within an ancient body of hidden knowledge that she called the wisdom religion. Rather than presenting an entirely new philosophy, Blavatsky claimed she was recovering humanity's oldest spiritual inheritance. The meaning behind the title. The title itself is deeply symbolic. Isis was one of the principal goddesses of ancient Egypt and represented wisdom, nature, and the hidden mysteries of existence. Ancient writers often described her as veiled, suggesting that nature conceals its deepest secrets from ordinary observation. For Blavatsky, unveiling Isis meant lifting this symbolic veil to reveal truths that had been preserved through mystery schools, initiates, philosophers, and enlightened adepts across many civilizations. The book therefore presents itself not merely as a work of scholarship, but as a guide to recovering forgotten knowledge. Volume 1, Science. The first volume examines 19th century science, although examines may be too gentle a word. Blavatsky launches an uncompromising attack upon what she regarded as scientific arrogance. She accepted that science had achieved remarkable progress in understanding the physical world, but argued that scientists had made a serious philosophical mistake by assuming that only material things exist. According to Blavatsky, consciousness, psychic phenomena, intuition, and spiritual experience are equally real, yet science dismissed them simply because they could not easily be measured. A major target of her criticism is materialism, the belief that everything, including the human mind, can ultimately be explained by physical matter alone. Blavatsky believed this worldview stripped life of meaning and ignored a vast range of human experiences reported throughout history. She also criticized Darwinian evolution, not because she rejected evolution altogether, but because she believed evolution was incomplete if understood purely in biological terms. Human beings, she argued, evolve spiritually as well as physically. The development of consciousness is every bit as important as the development of the body. The volume devotes considerable attention to subjects that mainstream science either ignored or regarded as superstition. These include mesmerism, hypnotism, psychic powers, clairvoyance, telepathy, spiritualist seances, and reports of miraculous events from many cultures. Central to her explanation is the concept of the astral light, an invisible medium that supposedly permeates the universe. Blavatsky describes it as a subtle field connecting all living beings and storing impressions of every thought and event. Many psychic experiences, she believed, occur through interaction with this hidden medium. She further argues that what people call magic is not supernatural at all. Instead, genuine magic represents a sophisticated understanding of natural laws that modern science has not yet discovered. Ancient priests, philosophers, and initiates allegedly possessed this knowledge and applied it responsibly. Sorcery, by contrast, was the selfish or destructive misuse of these same hidden forces. Throughout the volume, Blavatsky repeatedly suggests that ancient civilizations possessed scientific and philosophical insights far exceeding those usually credited to them. She points to Egypt, India, Greece, Chaldea, and Tibet as repositories of sophisticated knowledge that later generations gradually lost. Volume 2, Theology. The second volume turns its attention from science to religion. Here, Blavatsky argues that every major religion originally emerged from a common source, a universal body of spiritual wisdom that predated all organized faiths. Over centuries, however, religious institutions transformed these profound teachings into rigid doctrines, literal interpretations, and systems of authority. Christianity receives the strongest criticism, although Blavatsky also examines Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, ancient Egyptian religion, Greek philosophy, and numerous mystery traditions. She contends that the founders of the world's religions were genuine spiritual teachers, but that later institutions misunderstood or deliberately altered their messages. Myths became historical claims, symbols became dogmas, and mystical teachings became theological rules. According to Blavatsky, many biblical stories should be understood symbolically rather than literally. Similar themes, including virgin births, dying and resurrected gods, floods, divine messengers, and moral laws, appear across many cultures. Rather than proving one religion uniquely true, she argues, these recurring motifs point towards a shared spiritual heritage inherited from humanity's distant past. The comparative approach adopted in Isis Unveiled was highly unusual for its time and encouraged many readers to explore religions beyond the boundaries of Christianity. The central ideas, running through both volumes, is a remarkably consistent worldview. The most fundamental claim is that there exists a single universal wisdom religion underlying every authentic spiritual tradition. Different religions express this wisdom using different languages, myths, and symbols, but beneath these external differences lies the same eternal truth. Human beings, according to Blavatsky, are complex spiritual beings rather than merely biological organisms. The physical body is only the temporary outer layer. Beyond it exist subtler aspects of human nature, including an astral body, an enduring soul, and an immortal divine spirit. The ultimate purpose of life is therefore spiritual development, the gradual awakening of our higher nature. Evolution likewise extends beyond biology. Entire civilizations, races, and even planets develop through immense cosmic cycles lasting millions of years. History is therefore vastly older and spiritually richer than conventional historians imagined. Knowledge itself exists on several levels. Ordinary education teaches external facts, but true wisdom comes through inner transformation, disciplined study, and direct spiritual experience. Intellectual knowledge alone is insufficient. Blavatsky also distinguishes genuine spiritual adepts from ordinary mediums. While mediums passively receive impressions from unseen entities, adepts consciously develop disciplined control over hidden forces through years of moral purification and rigorous training. Throughout the work, she insists that miracles do not violate natural law. They simply involve laws that science has not yet discovered. Literary style and readability. Modern readers often find Isis Unveiled challenging. Blavatsky writes with immense confidence and extraordinary energy, but also with considerable complexity. Her sentences can be lengthy, her arguments frequently wander into digressions, and she assumes considerable familiarity with philosophy, religion, and classical literature. The book contains thousands of quotations from historians, scientists, religious texts, philosophers, travelers, and occult writers. Sometimes these references illuminate her arguments, at other times they overwhelm them. The tone is highly polemical. Blavatsky rarely presents opposing views dispassionately. Instead, she vigorously attacks scientists whom she considers narrow-minded and church leaders whom she believes have distorted genuine spirituality. Admirers see this passion as evidence of intellectual courage, while critics regard it as unnecessarily combative. Although the work attempts to synthesize knowledge from around the world, modern scholarship has identified numerous inaccuracies, selective quotations, and references that do not always withstand careful scrutiny. The standards of documentation expected today were not consistently followed. Critical assessment. Few books in the history of modern spirituality have generated such sharply divided opinions. Supporters regard Isis Unveiled as a pioneering attempt to bridge science, philosophy, and comparative religion. Long before interdisciplinary studies became fashionable, Blavatsky encouraged readers to examine similarities between diverse cultures and to question rigid boundaries separating scientific inquiry from spiritual investigation. Her emphasis on religious pluralism also proved remarkably influential. At a time when many Western writers viewed Christianity as uniquely superior, Blavatsky argued that Hinduism, Buddhism, and other ancient traditions deserved equal intellectual respect. This broader perspective helped stimulate Western interest in Asian religions during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The book also challenged readers to think critically about unquestioned assumptions. Blavatsky urged both scientists and theologians to recognize the limits of their own disciplines and to remain open to possibilities beyond conventional belief. Nevertheless, the work has significant weaknesses. Modern historians have demonstrated that many of Blavatsky's historical claims lack reliable evidence. Her reconstructions of ancient civilizations often depend upon speculative connections rather than established historical facts. Some quotations are incomplete, taken out of context, or attributed in ways that later researchers have questioned. Her scientific criticisms have also aged unevenly. Many ideas she rejected during the 19th century have since received overwhelming empirical support, while many of her own explanations, such as the astral light or occult forces governing nature, remain unsupported by mainstream scientific evidence. Scholars have likewise criticized the book's tendency to present conjecture as established fact. Blavatsky often writes with absolute certainty, even when discussing matters that cannot easily be verified. Yet dismissing the work solely because many of its factual claims are disputed would overlook its lasting cultural significance. Isis Unveiled helped shape modern Western esotericism, influenced later occult movements, contributed to the growth of New Thought and New Age spirituality, and inspired countless readers to study comparative religion, mysticism, and philosophy. Many ideas that later became commonplace within alternative spirituality, including karma, reincarnation, hidden masters, universal wisdom traditions, and spiritual evolution, reached large Western audiences in part through Blavatsky's writings. Overall evaluation: Isis Unveiled is best understood not as a conventional work of history or science, but as an ambitious philosophical manifesto. It represents one woman's attempt to construct a grand synthesis of religion, science, mythology, philosophy, and occult tradition into a single coherent worldview. Its historical accuracy and scientific claims remain highly controversial, and many have been rejected by modern scholarship. However, its importance lies less in whether every claim is correct than in its enormous influence upon the intellectual and spiritual landscape of the modern world. Readers approaching the book today should do so with both curiosity and critical judgment. It is neither a reliable textbook nor merely a work of fantasy. Rather, it is a fascinating historical document that captures an age when science, religion, and mysticism were colliding in dramatic new ways. More than a century after its publication, Isis Unveiled continues to provoke debate because it asks enduring questions that remain relevant today. Is reality limited to what our senses can detect? Can science and spirituality ultimately be reconciled? Do the world's religions preserve fragments of a deeper universal truth? Whether one accepts Blavatsky's answers or not, the questions she raises continue to challenge readers to look beyond accepted certainties and reconsider the boundaries of human knowledge.